Part 2, the 5 developmental stages of skills for relationship health. My name is Dr. Cathy Betwan. I'm a clinical psychologist, an experienced teacher and a parent, and this clip is part of a series on relationship health in the modern world. In this clip, I hope to demonstrate how an understanding of the skills for relationship health and how they emerge can be helpful for understanding what happens in individual development, but also gives us a way of understanding some of the things we're observing in the global context. If you look below, you'll be able to download a link with the PDF copy of the 5 developmental stages, which accompany this clip. I really look forward to your reflections and questions.
So let's think about the distinction between internal and external relationship health, and the idea that there's a simple 5-stage process in our maturing in relationships. So when a baby is born, all of us, we're born with the capacity for relationships, but we have to have support in order to develop the skills. And there are internal skills and external skills. So at stage 1, we all come into the world and experience the world just through our senses without words. And we relate in the external world to others through non-verbal communication, through imitation and mirroring. That means copying the behavior of significant others to us. Then at stage 2, if we're given support, we may come to understand a simple language for feelings. So a simple language like understanding cross, sad, happy, upset, worried. At stage 2, we're learning to follow simple rules and instructions. These are a really important part of how we socialize children to be able to fit into family life and fit into community. We learn to follow the rules set for us by significant others. Then at stage 3, if we're given support, we develop a language to communicate our feelings, again, at a fairly simple level. So happy, sad, cross, upset, worried. But externally, we're learning to relate to others through watching what happens, through what we call cause and effect, and through what we call a transactional form of relating. So I do this and this is what happens. If I do this, you'll do this for me. But there's a focus on learning to control and manage or manipulate external behavior of others through not much talking about it, just observing and seeing what works. At this stage, we might not develop much of an internal life, but a lot of people and a lot of humanity has functioned in our relationships at stage 3. So stage 3 relationships can have different qualities. So very focused on controlling others, sometimes aggressive, unpleasant, very difficult, or sometimes more respectful, polite and considerate. What distinction in a stage 3 relationship is there's really not much exploring of what's happening internally. Indeed, one way of coping is to not think about these things too much, because the reality of an internal emotional life is that emotions are like a roller coaster, particularly when you're learning how to understand them. You know, they change rapidly from one thing to another, and the experience can be confusing. So one way to manage that internal experience is to avoid awareness or possibly actively suppress them as a way of managing. Indeed, if you've had some really traumatic events, then that might be really necessary. If you're in a traumatic relationship, then maybe the only way you can actually cope with it. But I think something interesting is happening at the current time, which is that we're starting to discover through science and other work that we can develop a language for our internal experience, and we can explore our thoughts, beliefs and attitudes and discover the relationship between what we are thinking and believing and how we might feel. This can be a really interesting process, and it can give us opportunities to share these ideas and get interest in what other people are thinking and feeling and doing. There's an opportunity through stage 4 to discover a different form of being with each other and talking about things, and a different way of connecting with each other. So these are experiences where we also start to get curious about the reasons for another person's behavior. So for example, when we talk about trauma-informed practice, we might say, well, maybe the reason why they're doing this is because of what happened to them. Yeah, we start to get curious about the internal reasons for their behavior, not just focusing on what we're seeing externally. But stage 4 is kind of we're just sort of dipping our toe into that. And at stage 5, we're really taking that process of internal exploration much more seriously and developing more confidence. In particular, we're discovering at stage 5 that you have a lot more control over your own internal well-being than you initially thought, through exploring what you're telling yourself and discovering that certain things that you tell yourself will lead you to be feeling on a roller coaster, and other things you tell yourself can really stabilize you. This can be genuinely actively helpful in your relationships in this process of discovering who I am and what I believe in and how do I think that's similar to and different from other people. Now, as we start to get interested, really actively interested in our internal experiences, we discover that other people have the same sort of things. And across the globe, people have the experiences of joys and sorrows, dreams and hopes and worries. We discover that instead of massive differences between us and this black and white and polarized thinking that we see at stage 3, we start to discover that we've got a lot in common and a lot of shared humanity. We move from starting to want to control people into wanting to collaborate and cooperate with people to solve problems. Personally, I think stage 5 thinking is the sort of thinking that we're going to need in order to tackle some of the current big global problems that we're seeing.
I hope that's given you lots to think about. In the next part of this series, I'll be exploring how the idea of commitment to personal growth and to that of building skills for relationship health can support not only our own well-being, but also our relationships with families, communities, and the wider world. As such, I believe this gives us a small but meaningful way to make a contribution to this global picture.